Some missions in Assassin's Creed are brilliant, but others not so much. They are absolutely awful. And some are so bad that they can even ruin the whole experience of the entire game. And in this video, we are going through the worst missions from every Assassin's Creed. But before we do get into this video, if you are looking to go back through the previous Assassin's Creed titles and experience some of these missions, then I highly recommend that you make things slightly better by using Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is a premium energy and focus supplement and promises to boost your energy whilst still being delicious. The problem that I've found with many of the other game mode drinks is that once you mix them in, they still have that chalky texture. And after testing Rogue Energy myself, I can tell you that that is not the case. If you don't believe me, you can go and get a free sample for yourself. Use the link in the description down below where you can go and claim a free sample. And if you do want to go and buy some more for yourself, you can go and use code GTG to get 10% off every purchase. Getting back into the video, the worst mission from every Assassin's Creed. Starting off, we have Assassin's Creed 1. The mission that always stuck in my mind, especially as a kid when I struggled to play through this game, is called Syndicate. Unlike the majority of your targets, which are in castle keeps or even inside certain camps, Syndicate is actually located on a ship, which doesn't seem that challenging, except Altair cannot swim. You must get from point A to point B using the various and conveniently placed boats which are in your path. If you make one mistake, Altair is going in the water, and we should say that even back here, parkour was okay, it wasn't amazing. Sometimes the detection of collision just did not exist, and sometimes Altair would not actually stop before the edge and just walk right off. To make things even worse is that there are archers placed in various locations, and unfortunately it's not just a case that you need to take them out, but if you are detected by them, the mission has failed. Now the assassination itself is not difficult, but it's just getting from point A to point B, which was incredibly frustrating for a lot of players. Assassin's Creed 2. The mission is Bocca al Lupa. This is the final mission within the game. And for most, they're expecting a decent build-up before this to eventually go into its finale. But unfortunately, before you even enter this mission, you must collect all codex pages. And unless you actually think to do this whilst going through your first playthrough, it means that you need to go back and collect a lot of them, because this is what will build the map within Mario's room. Once completed and you actually figure out the puzzle, that's when you can unlock this mission. And the mission itself is quite straightforward. You need to follow the path around, eventually making it to the main building, which you'll sneak through, and then it goes into the final battle against Rodrigo. The challenge really comes in when you're trying to do this 100%, because if you want full synchronization, you need to do all of this without being detected. And it's easy for the first part and it's easy towards the end, but it's difficult within that middle section because you only have one straight path in order for you to not be detected. And once you mix this in with the puzzle codex pages that you need to get right at the beginning for you to unlock this mission, once you need to go through a very challenging situation of not being detected throughout the whole of this, and an anticlimactic ending where you don't even kill Rodrigo, yeah, that's the reason it's in this list. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. We've selected the mission Hell on Wheels. It's easily the most hated mission within the game, yet again because of its synchronization. For you to get 100%, you cannot take any damage, which is really the whole purpose of having a tank within the first place, so that it can withstand a lot of damage. What makes this mission even worse is that Ubisoft didn't really implement the gameplay mechanics for the tank correctly. It's not the easiest to control, and there are times where it will just stop because it's not registering inputs. At least that was the case back when Brotherhood was first released, and not so much within the remaster. It's said that this mission is slightly easier in the remastered trilogy, but still, it isn't great. Assassin's Creed Revelations. The mission selected for this one is not actually a mission, although it is part of one of them as part of an introduction. This is the Den Defense game mode, taking a spin on the tower defense. Your assassin den is under attack, and what you need to do is defend it, but not in the traditional sense of you being an assassin. It now becomes a den defense mini game where you need to build up points and use those points to reinforce the den before the next wave of attackers comes through. At first, these missions may seem fun as well as unique, but it doesn't take long for them to become a pain. And considering how much they're used within Assassin's Creed Revelations and then never used again in any other Assassin's Creed, it really does go to show exactly how poorly received they were. Assassin's Creed 3. With Assassin's Creed 3, many would complain that the tutorial itself is the worst thing about this game. It takes hours for you to go through, and by the end, you need to go through it all again because you're now moving away from using Haytham as the main character to Connor, and Connor has new abilities. But of course, with this video, we're looking at specifics. We're trying to find the mission which is the worst, in which we've selected Battle of Bunker Hill. Yet again, the mission itself is quite straightforward. If you're looking to go through this and have fun, it's not too difficult. It's easy to complete the main task, but if you're trying to go 100%, expect to pause the game, go all the way to restart memory, and then go all the way back to beginning. Because in order for you to get full 100% synchronization, you have to do this without taking any damage. The issue is that there are shots fired left, right, and center. There seems to be no pattern to the madness. It's just being in the right place at the right time and making the decision for you to run to the next place where you can find cover. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Some of the worst missions within the whole Assassin's Creed series are tailor missions. They are incredibly lazy. You just need to follow a target. And Black Flag was when the majority of missions available were tailor missions, but there was one which was worse than everything. This was tailor missions within a swamp, whilst also being on a boat. This is the mission called Siege of Charlestown. And it's exactly what I just said. You're in the Jackdaw ship and you are tailing another ship which is just in front of you, and you're doing it in a swamp. But in certain places, you need to leave the Jackdaw in order for you to bring down a chain so that you can actually go past a stop. And it is the most tedious mission, probably not within the game, but within the series. Assassin's Creed Rogue. The mission that we're selecting with this is gonna have a bit of backlash because it seemed like some people love it whereas others hated it. This is Storm Fortress. For most people, it is just way too challenging. This mission involves taking down a legendary ship during naval combat. And legendary ships, not just within Assassin's Creed Rogue, but also Black Flag, are difficult themselves. But this one just felt way more. Ubisoft seemed to take it to a whole new level. And during the time of when Rogue was first released, there was many people bragging as well as showing their gameplay by revealing it on YouTube about how they managed to easily complete it, whereas others were just crying. You can even go and look at Storm Fortress within YouTube, go and look at the comment section and see people asking, how did you do that? Despite watching the gameplay there right in front of them. This one really got to people. Assassin's Creed Unity. This one, we're not actually looking at missions within the main story. We're actually looking at the co-op missions and one named The Tournament. This one really isn't great, particularly if you do decide to do this alone, which a lot of people had to right at the beginning. On top of this just being a difficult mission to go through, when Unity was released, there were many problems, even connection problems. For some people, they would go into co-op, but unfortunately, they would not be able to find any other players. The good thing is that you were able to play these missions solo if you couldn't find other players, which many people had to resort to, but this is one which you should not do solo. Even if we're talking months later, once Ubisoft did finally fix the connection issues, for those that were still around playing this game, they still attempted and they were still struggling. And to make matters even worse, there's a timer connected to it, when really there probably doesn't need to be. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This one is Hello, Mr. Gatlin. You're on the back of a train with a Gatling gun, and as you're stationary, you're under attack. You need to fight off the waves of enemies. It sounds fun, and it is a fun mission, but yet again, if you're going for 100% synchronization, you need to do this without taking any damage. And this in itself is only a mission which lasts about 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes. But after just a couple minutes of you staying there stationary, which is still the somewhat easy part, it's still challenging, but it's the easy part of this mission. Eventually, that train starts to move and you have to fight off other trains, as well as carriages which are running alongside. Doing this is very tricky. This is another mission where if you do intend to go for 100% synchronization, you're going to have to repeat this time and time again, aborting memories, restarting memories, maybe even restarting from the most recent checkpoint. It's the only way that you can go through it. Assassin's Creed Origins. For this one, we're going to have to highlight the ending. Unfortunately, it was just not up to the standards of most AC fans. It was poorly executed, this making it one of the worst missions in Assassin's Creed Origins. Many considered this ending as anticlimactic and even made it feel like the game wasn't even worth the many hours that many people dedicated to it, considering it was a massive open world RPG. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. With Odyssey, of course, we need to select one of the boss battles. And with these boss battles, there are loads to choose from. There are some which really got players frustrated. But one that surprisingly came to the top of a lot of people's lists was the Erymanthium Boar. Reason for this is because this is something that you would fight early on within the game. Quite simply, it charges towards players, and if hit, it deals a considerable amount of damage. So the obvious thing is to just make sure that you don't get hit. But also out the back of this boar, you have a poisonous gas, which can cover a large part of the playing area, making it nearly impossible for you to escape. You either get hit by the boar in its charge attack, or you go into poisonous gas, which rapidly depletes your health. This only gets easy if you have the right equipment. Second wind is a must in this battle, as are explosive arrows. Death arrows will also be a player's best friend, and experienced archers might not have a problem at all with dealing with this. However, because this is early on within the game, people are still getting to grips with the gameplay mechanics, most people ended up facing this boar without that equipment. And finally, we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The worst missions here are any of the Cairn puzzles. There's a few main missions which actually require you to complete those, but the ones you complete are extremely easy. There's other ones that you can find within the world and they get slightly more complicated. But it's not so much that they're difficult to do, it's more that they are just extremely boring, with there not being any real reward at the end. You're talking about stacking stones. You're playing an Assassin's Creed game and you are stacking stones. For most, there's just no point. It's just an extra activity in the game, which only applies to those which are really trying to do absolutely everything, which plays a very small percentage, considering Assassin's Creed Valhalla has one of the lowest audience retention rates. My advice, if you're going through Valhalla, just avoid these because they're not really needed. And if you are truly trying to do everything, yeah, you can go through them, but I guarantee you're not going to have fun doing these. There you have it. Those are the worst missions from each and every Assassin's Creed title. If you want to know about the best missions, then that video is up next. We go through every single Assassin's Creed, very similar to what we did here, but it's got a much more positive spin. And if you have been a long-time Assassin's Creed fan, it gets somewhat nostalgic as we go back through the best missions from every title. That video is now on screen, so if you click that, I'll be over there to guide you through each and every one.